Suspicions of foul play after a top Argentine prosecutor is found dead in his apartment. Alberto Nisman was found shot to death on Sunday, just hours before he was set to testify on what he said was a cover-up by government officials over Iran's alleged role in the 1994 bombing of a Jewish community center. Our next guest says the United States should take note of all of this, writing, quote, "What America can do and should do is pay much closer heed to Nisman's urgent warnings. For years, while laboring at an investigation that amassed more than 1 million pages of documents, he sounded the alarm over Iranian terror networks, which he found extended way beyond Argentina and in some cases all the way to the U.S. Let's bring in Claudia Rosett. She's a journalist in residence at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. So, Claudia, let's start there. What did Nisman uncover when it comes to the Iranian networks inside of his country and elsewhere?
Jenna, following the leads that he found in Argentina, he began uncovering methods of Iranian infiltration and terror networks extending from Argentina all the way up to New York, spread throughout Latin America. And he kept warning and warning that we really needed to take heed of this. That is how they prepare to launch terror attacks. And
what did he find about those terror networks? What did they look like?
Well, here's what one of them looked like. You may remember the 2007 terrorist plot to bomb the fuel tanks and fuel lines at New York's JFK airport, which would have been a very spectacular terrorist attack. Well, one of the men convicted and sentenced to life in prison for that in the U.S., Abdul Qadir, was a former member of the Parliament of Guyana, who was one of the connections that Alberto Nisman, the now dead Argentine prosecutor, found in mapping the networks that extended from that original terror plot in Buenos Aires. In other words, he was seeing one major node of a huge organization that is still germane today, that was involved in plotting a major attack on New York City just a few years ago.
And the tentacles, as you mentioned, go back in many ways to Argentina. Why Argentina, and what is the cover-up that he was going to testify about on Monday?
Argentina, I interviewed him in 2009 in New York City. He had come to talk with prosecutors there about terror cases. And he said Argentina had two appeals to Iran. One was a streak of anti-Semitism in its basic political culture. And the other one was, years ago, it was willing to share nuclear technology with Iran. When Argentina, under U.S. pressure, then stopped sharing that technology, Iran decided to carry out a terror attack.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. And then he's found, after all these years, he's found on Sunday under very suspicious circumstances inside of his apartment, dead with a bullet shot wound. I mean, what is the latest from that you know, Claudia, about the circumstances surrounding his death?
There are reasons for tremendous skepticism. He was on the eve of testifying that there was a cover-up of a case he had toiled over for more than 10 years, extensively, and about which he was sounding huge warnings. He wanted to come testify in Washington in front of Congress. He was invited to do that in 2013. The Argentine government refused him permission. We would have heard very interesting things from him in that testimony, I am certain, about Iranian networks today. One of his warnings was that they infiltrate using agents sent as taxi drivers, as students, as diplomats, as businessmen, and they operate under those covers for years, but they are ready when Iran decides to execute an attack. And Jenna, the New York City Police Department former head of intelligence testified in 2013 to Congress that they have found Iranian diplomats conducting what looked like hostile reconnaissance surveillance of New York City on more than half a dozen occasions over the past 12 years, including subway tracks, train tracks at Grand Central, the Wall Street heliport. This, in other words, Alberto Nisman's warning was not only a case about a long ago bombing in Argentina. It was a warning about terror attacks in the making today.
Claudia, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.